let's get it right. We're serving big bear vibes every Friday night. Aeson's got his glitter bear on high and jaded shades, ready to read it to fill. Spilling sass while Techy Joe upgrades the view and attempt to keep it a little classy. Good at LGBTQIA plus from these mountain tops. We got a whiskey in the cup and no plans to stop. Tech news, hot takes, and a little bit of fight. So buckle up, sugar, it's gonna be a ride. Well, the mountain bears, turn up the sound. If you ain't ready, better leave this town. We're big, bold, and breaking the mold. So grab a drink and let's let it unfold.
Hey, Brenda.
Hello, Brenda, darling. Hello, Devin. You were here earlier. How are you, honey? Blessed beltane to you, too. Oh, it has been a day already. And I just started, but anyhow.
Welcome to the Mountain Bears.
Yeah. Let me turn you up so I can hear you.
Oh, yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
I'm doing great. Awesome.
all right. Do you even know who Trisha Paytas is, honey?
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
One of a few. I know she is a controversial figure in the YouTube sphere. She has been through every I lied, but I didn't really lie, but I basically lied drama.
Right.
Like, it's just her brand now. It's like she's
Actually, she's really straightened up.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Cool.
she has. She got married, had kids, has this podcast. Kind of have kept her drama under control. Like the man she married, he got to have a good leash.
Oh, good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's pissed off our community a number of times.
Well, she's ticked off a lot of communities a lot of times.
Right, but it got her views. But I kind of like what she's doing now.
Okay. So yeah, Trisha Paytas reportedly donates over $10,000 to trans charity. Influencer and YouTube personality Trisha Paytas has reportedly donated over $10,000 to a trans charity in the U.S. The internet's favorite obsession reportedly donated $10,500 to LGBTQ plus crisis hotline and mental health support network Trans Lifeline. Sorry, guys, I forgot to mute before the show. There we go. So yeah, posting to their Instagram story on Thursday, May 1st, Paytas shared a screenshot of the donation receipt alongside a link to the website's donation page. Quote, "Thank you for all the support on the tour," she wrote, "donating to Trans Lifeline today to keep the community safe, protected during these scary times." The U.S.-based charity, which has crisis hotlines in the U.S. and Canada, also helps fight back against discrimination through support workshops, campaigns, and much more. Paytas' donation was widely condemned by fans of the media personality, with one writing that they, quote, "love this wonderful human and are grateful for her transparency." Quote, "I like that she," commended, not condemned. Quote, "I like that she posts her donations when linking because otherwise people get upset that a rich person is asking their fans to give money instead of donating themselves," another wrote. Quote, "She always donates first and makes that clear." While Paytas has made her support of the LGBTQ plus community more than clear, previous controversies have made her a divisive figure across the internet, especially in queer spaces. In 2019, she made a video coming out as a trans man, but in the same video said she was 1,000% identifies with the gender she was assigned at birth. The video, which she claimed she hadn't profited from, despite profiting from it, prompted accusations that she was exploiting the trans community for clicks and money. She later came out as non-binary, saying she uses she, they pronouns. Regardless, their contribution towards Trans Lifeline was widely congratulated as a good move from Paytas, especially during a time of immense hardship for the trans community in the US and the UK. Her donation comes shortly after a hugely reviled report from the US Department of Health recommended using exploratory therapy rather than medical interventions for trans youth, leading many to worry it could result in harmful conversion practices being used. So, yeah.
Yeah, like she's actually doing some good. Granted, I know she's controversial. She does clips and grabs. Point blank.
Well, but the thing with Trisha Paytas,
Uh-huh.
that I always think you have to keep in mind is for every good thing she does, she turns around and fucks it up.
Right.
She does a good thing, and then she turns around and fucks it up.
Right.
And it's an endless cycle, and it's just part of the you just have to accept.
Mm-hmm.
That's just who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's a very flawed individual, but she does do good things.
She does. And I think sweetheart, she's learned how to make her money. I mean, if we changed this title to our show, I think we could be making just as much as she does.
Okay.
Change it from the Mountain Bears podcast to, let's discuss our divorce or, some shocking, yeah.
I mean, we could. We could plan out our divorce on air.
Honey, we planned our divorce the second night we met.
I know, it's easy content.
Exactly. It's like, nah, I planned this fucking divorce a long time ago.
It's like, oh, bless your heart. You think you're going to get divorced? That's adorable.
Adorable.
It's adorable. No, we've talked about it on the air before.
Yeah.
I don't eat salads, and I stay suspicious of any purchase of plants that are protected species.
Or imported from foreign nations, just saying. Which apparently Temu is going to not be letting me shop in China anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of to be expected.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's getting ready to be interesting with the tariffs.
Right.
And what that's going to actually do for our stores. I know a lot of stores have gone ahead and pre-stocked.
Mm-hmm.
And for some stores that has gotten about insane.
Right.
With the level that, like, they're trying to get ahead, and they've ordered as much as they could.
Mm-hmm.
To try to get ahead of everything. But ultimately it's going to come a point that stock sells out.
Mm-hmm.
And then what?
Right.
Like, either prices are going to jump horrifically.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're going to see things like Amazon has already said they're going to do, which is start listing out what the tariffs cost.
Mm-hmm.
That's making the total product price so much higher.
Right.
Which I totally appreciate it. Like, they separate out what part of this is boom.
Yeah. What part of this is actually just going to fill the government's pockets.
Yeah, because we see that with other products. Like, we've done that with gasoline for decades now. Like, what part of our gas price is the gas price, and what part of our gas price is highway usage fee? What part of it is? What part of it is? And those are all that. Like, it's. I don't know if most people pay attention to that when they're standing at the pump, but it's kind of nice to see.
Well, it is nice to see. Now, I wish they would do that on cigarettes. And the reason for that is maybe people would shut the fuck up. Because here's the thing. If smokers quit smoking, you got everybody to quit smoking. your CHIP fund and your CHIP, and CHIP is the child insurance program, loses all its funding.
Mhm. Well, that's why we've seen problems with things like, because we do have what is it, coal excise taxes.
Right.
Huge thing to West Virginia's paid for many things over the years. But it's kind of like a hidden tax. Like, we don't talk about it much. We don't explain that one much. And then we all started wondering why like shit went sideways in the state of West Virginia when coal sales dropped.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, it's the excise tax.
Right.
You don't have funding from the excise tax. The more that goes down, the more you see things like levies.
Right.
Because if I remember right, one of the biggest ones it supports is schools and education.
Yeah. And education, which are getting cuts. They've talked about doing regional school boards, which in a way, I'm beginning to question if that would not be better.
I mean, if we're going to build little kitty penitentiaries for all of our education, at least that's what we're doing here in Fayette County, then I like it starts to be kind of ridiculous to.
Right. And they just recently reduced our fire levy, which, I'm not for the fire levy to begin with. I'm also not for the school levy.
Yeah, well, yeah, but here's my thought is if they're going to keep building little kitty penitentiaries, which is what they've basically done, that's what they've done here in Fayette County. I like the county school board just seems kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole, like I get it when you have a county and you have like 20 schools, 50 schools spread out over the county. I get it. I totally follow why you would need a central board to coordinate all those things. But when you put them all within the same little parcel and then bus all the students in, it's kind of like, what are we doing?
Exactly. And, there are so many boards of education that are under control of the state board at this point because of failed financial crimes, failed, holding standards. Like there's a lot that, West Virginia schools are lacking. There's a reason we are number 49 in the country. I am quite sure that there are some textbooks out there that still talk about landing on the moon.
Oh, most definitely. I wonder if my high school is still using the biology textbooks where they were brand new. Like we got brand new textbooks that year. I will never forget that my science teacher passed the books out.
Right.
And then passed out glue sticks. And we had an entire period to glue together the pages on evolution. Read into that as you will. But we were given an entire period to take these glue sticks and glue that section together.
Right.
Because that was not appropriate material in the state of West Virginia for us as students.
Right.
But yeah, we had a whole period to do it.
Yeah. A whole hour and a half.
I'm just sitting here going, I wonder how long those textbooks lasted because they were horrible. They were paperback textbooks. I'm just sitting here going, oh God, if you're still using these.
Well, they probably are.
They're so bad. They were such cheap textbooks.
Yeah. And he freezes again. I don't know what is up with this. He has rebooted already.
I remember having to sit there and glue together. I don't know why I'm freezing tonight. Some nights are just worse than others. So yeah.
Yeah.
But all right, we'll get through it.
Yes, we'll get through it. But no, like it's ridiculous the amount of poor education that our state has. And it's not our teachers' fault. Our teachers are no longer allowed to teach. They have to get students ready day one of school for the state testing. It's ridiculous.
Part of it is that. Like the whole issue has been, though, we were a poor state trying to manage a underpaying teachers, not properly supporting them, continuously cutting their funding,
Right.
by making everything about metrics,
Right.
because we were lagging in testing,
Right.
only to turn around and end up just trying to fix with, this push towards higher scores,
Right.
what has always been a funding problem.
Right.
Like it's always been a funding problem, even and it was really unfair, because I remember this happening. Is they pushed these schools and these teachers
Right.
towards a carrot of, you get these scores up, you improve our scores, you make us better, we will reward you with compensation.
Right.
And basically, I think the most they ever got was like a cost of living adjustment.
Right.
Like it never, like, which is like, yay. Because when you're already severely underpaid based on the national average, and all you get is a small little bump in cost of living, like, there's a reason teachers are getting out of education, and quite frankly, it's not that hard of a ... to follow.
Right.
Like, this is what we keep doing. So right now we're a good couple of generations into this. I think we're ultimately seeing school boards struggle to keep anyone even remotely capable.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to trash every teacher in the state of West Virginia. I'm sure there are many that have been like, okay, I'm going to make prep money. Okay, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to stay where I grew up. I'm going to, those are great teachers, need to be applauded. But that's not going to be all your teachers, and that's not going to be all your administrators. Definitely not going to be all your administrators. And it's certainly not going to be your school board.
Exactly. And, that's the, like, I'm for this moving to regional school boards.
It could be interesting.
Right.
Depending upon
where it is, what it is, how that works out. Apparently, the county has to share 2 borders. So, like, Mingo and, like, one, Mingo County is currently being controlled by the state. 2 of the other counties, could pull it together.
Yeah. Well, and I would hope it wouldn't be the forever solution.
Right.
Like my general theory. Any more than I really don't hope. That this, and when I call them kitty penitentiaries, what I'm talking about is these are institutional architecture. Just like you took a single plot of land and you just dropped schools on it.
Right.
One after another. Like, this is one primary school, and that's another primary school, and this is another one. And this is a middle school, and that's a middle school, and that's another middle school.
Right.
And then they all share facilities.
Right.
Like the soccer field, the football field, the baseball field, the whatever. It's all the same thing.
Right.
Like, I think we all knew it was bad back in like the 80s when they rolled in the trailers. This is worse. To me, this is worse.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more than worse. It's terrible in general. And in my opinion, it's just outright ridiculous. When we look at how education hasn't changed since the late 40s. 30 students a classroom. Well, welcome to West Virginia. You might have enough. You may not even have 40 students to fill your classroom.
Or, well, no, they're going to have 40 students to fill a classroom. But it's also going to be the like, there has actually been quite a major shift
Right.
Or many major shifts actually at this point in education, and just the IEPs alone.
Right.
But off the top, like, we're not even going to get into that.
Right.
We'll just put that to the side. But the idea of education in general, and how teachers are supposed to be teaching, has drastically shifted. Like, we have left behind this idea of basically lecture classes.
Right.
Sit there, pay attention, write down everything on the board, listen while your teacher drones on for hours, and then only speak when spoken to.
Right.
Like, that was, once you could write, that was basically education. For a number of years.
Right.
At least from my version of the 80s and 90s. And then it was like late 80s, early 90s. But then I know that, like, at least Mercer County started to shift right there in the 90s, as they were realizing this crap doesn't work. Or it's either no longer working, or it's like there's better science here.
Right.
To support this, and like education keeps kind of shifting. So of course we have Common Core that's going to be applied to all schools, and so that's a major shift in teaching.
Right.
So yeah.
And again, and it doesn't prepare anyone, especially in high school classes, for college.
Depending. If you demonstrate really good college potential very early on, and you get tracked into the right classes for it, then yes, you actually will get some college prep.
Well, I know that, but like, if you do not have lecture classes, you are not ready for college. If you do not know how to function in a lecture class, you are not ready for college.
I'm still kind of back on the theory that even in college, the damn lecture classes, if you're going straight, sit there, take notes, shut up,
right,
speak when spoken to, even the colleges have gotten to a point that, like, they've got to be realizing this crap doesn't fly.
Right.
It just doesn't work. Though I will say most of the lecturing professors I had were absolutely useless.
Right.
Now, when I say that, I mean the ones that literally just, they walked in at like dead on time.
Right.
Droned for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, however long the lecture class was. And then that's it. They're gone. I have office hours between blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. The college makes me.
Exactly.
Like those, oh my God. One, they're a useless class format. Two, those specific professors that taught exactly like that. I'm not saying the lecturer has no ability. But the ones that taught like that, no one learned anything. That was useless. Thank God for TAs.
TAs are great if they can even handle the subject, but like some of the physics classes I took, there was no other way to teach it other than lecture. Some of the history classes I took, there was no other way to teach it than lecture.
Well, but you can be more engaging. You can, like, and I'm literally speaking in classes that there was no presentation, there was no video, there was no audio, there was no like different ways to take in the material.
Right.
You showed up and you wrote the whole time they talked, and that's your only hope. The book is, God help you, most of us didn't have the right book for like the first month, because most of
try like 4 books.
Well, what I was going to say is most of these professors didn't care enough to actually talk to the bookstore to order the right materials. They just kept running with, that's what I'm going to teach from. Like, leave me alone.
Right.
And so then you get to class and you find out that the $200 textbook or books that you just bought, $300, $400, $500, are all wrong. That's not what you're supposed to have. That's not what's on my syllabus.
Right.
I did not get your syllabus until this morning.
Mm-hmm.
How was I supposed to make this happen? It is a 9 a.m. lecture.
Mm-hmm.
How do you explain to me, how do you think your syllabus that wasn't released till this morning, that has the book that you want, that wasn't what you told the bookstore, is supposed to be in my hands when your syllabus that I scrambled to get printed between 8 a.m. when it went live on your website and 9 a.m. when your lecture occurs is supposed to be something magically in my hands.
Right.
Oh, but the bookstore doesn't even stock that for anything. They've had to do an order from Barnes & Noble, and that will get here sometime when they feel like it.
Right.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
Like, those are professors I seriously, if ever in a dark alley, you know, because it's like you already made a subject that was not going to be fun,
right,
or had high potential to not be fun, way worse than it ever had to be, and then you basically set us up all to fail. Like, that's a struggle bus.
Right. See, on my side of it, in the classes that I went through, like, the book was useless. By the time we got the book, it was useless. We worked more so on the lecture itself and the data of the lecture and the slideshows of a lecture. Like, that's the only way I got through physics.
Well, again, slideshow, yay.
Yeah, like amazing slideshows, amazing, you know. Now, granted, a lot of the class was historical information and historical data and historical techniques, and this is how you do this and this is how you do that. But it was the mechanicals, and it's like the book was like talking about the Fox's sisters, and it's like, well, that's interesting. You're talking about the Fox's sisters. You're not even talking about the physics going into that. Yeah.
Sorry, I took chemistry.
I know.
Which was a mistake. That's actually, I will say, that was the professor. I aced chemistry in high school. It was no big deal. I got it. I was good. I unlearned more in her lectures.
Right.
I literally lost intelligence.
Right.
Because I swear to God, she was giving us wrong information all the way through it. The woman flat out started the semester with, I do not want to teach this class. At all. She was a researcher. She wanted nothing to do with lecturing, teaching, or doing anything else. But apparently, they gave her a nice position to do research. It just required her to teach one class, and this was it.
Right.
And it was a nightmare.
Right. I'm sure it was. I'm sure she also was a nightmare teacher.
Like, yeah. She had an office 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know how professors normally have office hours, and it's like a couple of days, usually a couple days, or a couple hours, couple days a week. Generally, it's a good baseline.
Right.
30 minutes once a week. Good luck catching her.
Good luck catching her. Good luck catching anything. For me, like, even the quantum physics teacher, like, it's email me. It's like, there is no office hours. Well, granted, most of my classes were and are remote. But, like, quantum physics was a fucking total lecture series. No questions, no answers. Watch the lecture.
Yeah.
Take your notes. Do your task. Write your corner.
There you go.
hmm Well, we're getting signs from one of my used to be favorite restaurants, and I have recommendations for you, CEO, on how to fix this. But CEO of McDonald's is sounding the warning alarm.
So McDonald's CEO sounds alarm on major customer problem. This is from the street. The fast food chain is struggling to shake an alarming trend that's hurting its sales. It's a new year, and McDonald's, the largest fast food chain in the U.S., is still suffering from concerning customer behavior, and its CEO is sounding the alarm on why this trend continues to grow legs. They're going to blame millennials. I hear it now. In McDonald's first quarter earnings report for 2025, it revealed that its U.S. comparable sales decreased by 3.6% year over year during the quarter. This contributed to the company seeing a 3% year over year decline in its operating income, which is profit after paying operating expenses. The dip in sales comes after McDonald's made several bold attempts to win back customers. For example, the fast food chain recently unveiled its $5 meal deal and buy one, add one for $1 deal. It also just hyped the return of a fan favorite menu fan favorite menu items such as McCrispy strips and the snack wrap. However, according to recent data from Placer AI, foot traffic in McDonald's stores declined by 2.6% during the first few months of the year, which shows that consumers aren't rapidly changing their tune. Last year, McDonald's faced backlash from consumers for hiking menu prices. In October, the restaurant chain also suffered an unsettling E. coli outbreak at multiple locations, which forced it to temporarily remove its quarter pounder from menus. So it's no surprise that McDonald's is facing decreased consumer momentum.
Well, that and they're not following food trends. They've not added a gluten-free option. They're not. There's a lot of things that they should be doing as a restaurant that they're not doing.
Oh.
They're trying to do the same old stick, and American consumers are tired of it.
Well, and I think that like they're kind of hitting this blockbuster moment. Like I'll go ahead and call it. I don't think McDonald's Burger King, Hardee's. I don't know how it's still alive. But most of your general fast food, I really don't think is going to make it. I think that we've gotten to a point where wanting different. I don't think they really have the. And what I mean by that is the thing that made McDonald's, Burger King, etc., such landmark companies was the predictability.
Right.
You know what McDonald's tastes like anywhere in the world. McDonald's basically tastes like McDonald's. Minor deviation here and there, especially with some localized menu items, like there's a Spam burger or something in Okay.
I'll be right.
Okay. But like there's that predictability of McDonald's, and I don't think that's really selling them anymore. And I don't know how you undo the association. Especially as we've kind of all generally started to pull towards more localized restaurants and away from franchise-based restaurants.
Well,
that's been the
big problem here. But if McDonald's would do two things, I think they would see a massive profit update. They would create a gluten-free, they would bring in the gluten-free bun they have in the UK to the US market. They would be one of the only fast food restaurants to offer a gluten-free burger option. Top of the line. And also if they bring in some of the other menu items that they have in other places.
Okay.
And this is some of the things like they have a Hawaiian burger. They don't bring it there.
No. Well, and I think a big part of that
Right.
is that, like, they, for some very specific markets,
Right.
they did some localization.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some localization for China. There's some localization for Hawaii.
Right.
Um, I want to say like South America. There's some
Right.
localization, if I remember right. But they never really tried
Right.
to push that out
Mm-hmm.
and make it part of the franchise thing. More to the point, I think the real ultimate argument to be made is
Mm-hmm.
that that localization has more to do with the franchise owners,
Right.
like the franchisees,
Right.
than it has to do with McDonald's as a corporate entity.
Right.
Like, as a corporate entity, they're just selling franchise licenses, and they, like, the things that you make that are our brand
Right.
have to be like this.
Yeah.
So it's very cut and dry on that front. That's
Right.
what your franchise license is for, and that's how you get a franchise license. But for the people that are buying the licenses, I think we've seen a massive swing away from those being more local people
Right.
opening a restaurant.
Right.
And it's moved into, like, basically private equity or damn close to it. They're not opening a restaurant.
Right. They're open
They're
30
not.
restaurants.
Yeah, it's sort of like we run into this here, is
Mm-hmm.
that, like, every single what is it? Every single Arby's
Mm-hmm.
all own, like, in a, like, almost 100-mile radius,
Mm-hmm.
all owned by the same people.
Right.
It's one company, and that's not the only franchise they have.
Right.
That's one of the license sets.
Right.
And they have no. They wanted a turnkey business that they could scale
Mm-hmm.
and drop onto West Virginia, and that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not seeing, like, franchise licensing being used in a way
Right.
that is basically one owner to, or one licensee to, like, one or two local locations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very, entwined thing to their life, that they're most likely owner operators, meaning
Mm-hmm.
they're physically present in the locations
Right.
to run their business. But it's more so, you formed a company, you bought a shit ton of licenses and locations, and you collect a check.
Right.
You hire a bunch of people to do this. You might
Mm-hmm.
breeze through a location once a year.
Right. If that. But no, if they
good
would
luck.
launch more vegetarian options like they have in the UK, if they would launch more gluten-free options, if they would stick to the way the Americans are currently eating, which is more diversely, more openly, then they'd probably have a lot more openness.
Well, but then that's basically saying, McDonald's, take your entire idea that you started back in, what, the 1950s,
Mm-hmm.
and throw it out. Like, throw out the playbook, because it ran beautifully for you for a good 40, 50 years.
Right.
And then it started to falter.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of went sideways. I don't think that's going to save them, because I think a lot of people are seeing success with opening their own restaurant,
Right.
offering something entirely different, or even if
Mm-hmm.
it is burgers and fries,
Right.
it's not McDonald's.
True.
Because I do think, to some extent, and I'm not saying there's not a revival McDonald's future,
Mm-hmm.
that may occur. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that we're going through a shift in
Mm-hmm.
which I think we're all burnt out.
Well,
You know what I
understandably,
mean?
it's a lot of burnout, but it's a lot of because they haven't changed their menu. They haven't changed. They've built menus in other places, like the UK, that is showing a profit largely. Like the UK is doing very well comparative to the U.S. restaurants who did not change their menus, who did not build into anything.
Right, but I think you also have the same, like, we're ultimately talking about the same thing, is because
Mm-hmm.
when you consider the size of like their European market
Mm-hmm.
and the different countries involved in that,
Right.
this is a very smaller
Right.
market. And I think there was like a precognition that you're going to have to localize.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to just rubber stamp one of these out,
Right.
and have it be successful. Like, that'll work a little,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not going to do the thing.
Right.
Whereas in the US, they just kind of started at like, this is a very fixed thing.
Right.
And they haven't really, most of the franchisees haven't really deviated.
Right.
It's
At
like, just
any of it.
run the.
Yeah. But if they brought, like, example, thinking of our friends, if we want to go to a restaurant, we can't do McDonald's. There's nothing for me. There's nothing for our one friend that's vegetarian.
Argumentatively, yes.
Okay. There's barely anything for you.
At a McDonald's?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't love a lot of their items, but technically I can knock out, like, I'll survive.
Right.
Like, I'm going to be mad if this is where we're going to meet every Tuesday for the rest of your life. Like,
Exactly.
my McDonald's menu is limited.
Exactly. And then, the only one happy here is the Invisible, because they do have chicken nuggets. But if they don't have chicken nuggets, he's done there too. Unless we're in like 3 locations in West Virginia that still have the McPizza.
There's still McDonald's with the McPizza?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
So, however, if they would bring in the veggie dippers, which are vegetable-based chicken nuggets and vegetable-based hamburgers, gluten-free bun options, gluten-free McMuffin options, that'll open that diversity up very quickly.
Well, but the problem being is, again, going back to, Devin's like, the McPizza still exists?
Yes.
I know, right? Me too. Like, I've never had one, but still, I didn't know it still existed and was a thing. But that, again, is the differentiation that some of the franchisees owners did, and some localization to their markets.
Right.
But no, it it still goes back to the same problem, is that with so many locations owned by like one licensee, like one entity, they're mostly running these like coin op laundries.
Right.
And when I say that, I mean the turnkey business you give to your ne'er-do-well son-in-law and go, don't fuck it up. Right. And so all they do is sit back, collect a check, and just whatever, run it at like bare minimum operating costs.
Right.
And when you bring in things like gluten-free buns and veggie dippers, you're going to go through an adjustment figuring out how many of this item can we actually sell. Okay, we ordered that many, but we have a ramp up to, if there's interest, and people being aware, like, because you have to permeate through that, that ultimately, is there going to be enough sustaining demand?
Oh, I think there is. I mean, because what this is just an example. The fire station in Charleston, not this month, but last month we went there. It's the end of the month. Their truck was running the next day. They were out of it. They were out of gluten-free. Like, sorry, we can't do it. We're out of them. They were also out of mayonnaise. So that tells you something. The number of times that we go to the store and I go to buy food, they're out of it. That tells you something. It's like, hello, see the demand.
Then we have things like meat intolerance, which has suddenly become a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one came out of nowhere.
That one came out of the additional bullshit they're putting in meat.
Well, there's also like a legitimate
Mm-hmm.
illness. It's just like tick bites and there's a few other things it can be.
Mm-hmm.
Alpha gall, that's what it
Right.
is. Yeah, it's an allergy to like mammalian meat.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
But it makes it hard for some of these restaurants to, especially your chain restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're still cooking food for people that don't exist,
Right.
or basically that are dying out.
Right.
Like I'm not trying, but it kind of has implications for your business model
Mm-hmm.
if you're basically trying to feed dinosaurs. And I'm not trying to insult people with that. It's just the truth of the matter is,
Right.
like if you're trying to run McDonald's on the dietary needs of, you know, a Tyrannosaurus Rex,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to stay in business very long,
No.
unless you can find some commonalities here.
Right.
But and that's ultimately the
But we
thing.
saw this out of Burger King too, and they came out with the Impossible Burger, and they've developed a few more vegetarian options, and they stabilized their market.
They did, but that has also come with some serious concerns over that. Out of that, there are serious concerns over the
Mm-hmm.
Impossible Burger
Right.
because it's worse.
Mm-hmm.
Dietetically, it is worse
Mm-hmm.
than the previous worst item on their menu.
Yeah.
Like it is absolutely like holy sweet Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Like have the what is that? Have the Monte Cristo.
Right.
Just have the Monte Cristo at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Right. But if someone is, meat intolerant, they have an option there that's not salad.
yeah. Well, and we've generally had a problem with trying to make healthier food that isn't just here's your food trough of salad.
Right.
Because like to an extent, and we even did that through like, you know, elementary and high school, of trying to give healthier options, and it's like the massive pendulum swing
Mm-hmm.
of like calm down.
Mm-hmm.
These don't have to be diametrically opposed things.
Right.
Eat healthy or die.
Right.
Find some middle ground items and
Right.
let it be, you know, a little more diverse. But therein lies the problem is when you diversify your menu, and
Right.
we've seen restaurants fail over this,
Right.
is when they keep adding to this menu, and it's
Right.
also oh God, what's his name? The chef, Ramsay.
Right.
Anyway, he's talked about this as well. Is that at some point your menu gets too dense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a combination of things that you have to try to hold in equilibrium while you do this.
Right.
Until you can stabilize on like, okay, this is like the unhealthy part, and
Right.
then these are the middle, and then this is our like totally healthy option.
Right.
And like, but we've pared it all down to things that all work together.
Right.
So overall, your experience gets healthier,
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't, so to speak, want it to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we see that in a few different ways.
Well, there's more than just seeing it in a few different places. It's also seeing, like, looking at some of the gluten-free options. I'm like, this is garbage. Is it worth it? No. I'll choose like chicken. Because it's garbage. And then like some of the stuff they're putting gluten in. We were at the store earlier, grabbing dinner. And one of my go-tos has always been, just grab me a thing of kibasi.
Yeah, not so easy anymore.
No, not so easy anymore.
Someone changed.
A lot changed.
But that also happens, and
Right.
it's probably gonna be more of it because we seem to keep trying to make food cheaper and more shelf stable,
Right.
and that's kind of where your gluten kicks in.
Right.
Is it's cheaper and it's more shelf stable.
Right.
Then we have the issues of West Virginia and other states. It's not going to just be West Virginia, I'll guarantee you.
Right.
That are kind of going with a more European route of,
Mhm.
of banning certain additives,
Mhm.
because they're not considered appropriate for food.
Mhm.
It's not that they're inedible, it's that the long-term exposure to these
Right.
comes with a list of problems. And one of the most ironic things was, when someone pointed out that like it's in 40 or 60% or whatever of the food available in our stores.
Right.
And I'm like, you don't see that as a problem?
Right.
Like, did you read like what's associated with each of these?
Right. Did you even figure out why you're putting it in there? Because a lot of times they don't even know why they're putting it in there.
I mean, some of them, it's not that companies don't know why they're putting it in there. They're putting it in there because it's cheap. It makes it pretty. It makes it shelf stable. It makes it whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's a more expensive option,
Mm-hmm.
but higher profit margin is always a better profit margin.
Right. But that doesn't mean you get to put chalk in white bread to make it whiter.
No. But getting people to process this is the modern version of like putting chalk and lead and
Mm-hmm.
whatever into our food doesn't seem to be clicking. Like there's a
No.
weird backlash on this one.
Well, there's a
It's
lot of
like,
backlash. There's a lot of whiny problems.
yeah,
And it's like, give us real food, sell us real food. Yes, we'll pay more. An example of those is the $6 we're paying for a dozen eggs now because of unregulated bird flu that they could regulate and take care of very easily, but they're not. So you have $6 eggs. But the amount of example bread. My bread is $6 a loaf.
at,
Other bread, do what?
at least.
At least. Um, and they can't keep it on the shelves. Really? Like I've had store managers say, we order, 5 to 20 loaves of this and we sell out every time. You'll have to get here earlier.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And I sometimes wonder, like, because we see this with other products in
Right,
our local stores.
right.
And it's trying to figure out which issue it is,
Hmm.
because we have the payday problem
Right.
where one, like, if you're on monthly assistance, you get paid one day a month.
Hmm.
That's it. And there is a commonality of at least 1 week where most people seem to get paid.
Right,
Just proliferation of last names in an area.
right.
And it literally, our store in general looks like it's been hit by locusts.
Yeah,
Okay, so there's that problem. And that just, like, they stock up for a month, whatever's on the shelf, it's gone.
yeah.
So I don't know if it's monthly buying.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's not monthly buying, but it's constantly shorted. So then people buy more of it. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like you ended up with snowball problem. You only ordered so much in the beginning
Hmm.
and it kept selling out.
Right,
Then you ordered more of it. And now people are conditioned to, well, if they've got it, buy all they've got.
right.
Put it in the freezer. It'll be okay.
Hmm.
Or if the market is actually that big. that it's like we haven't figured out what the limit is until you don't sell out of it, and you can keep it on the shelf. I mean, you eventually sell out of it, but you can keep it on the shelf for a few days.
Right.
And not go through this constant, like, we got it in, we stocked the shelf is empty at 9:30 a.m.
Right.
Get here earlier. Okay, we bought more, we stocked the shelf, it was emptied out by 9:30 a.m. Get here sooner.
And right now, we get the influx. The influx always creates a problem for standard food, specialized food, and yes, specialized food,
especially.
Even worse.
Yeah. Well, because again, you also have to keep in mind this is a tourist area. We are minutes from the gorge. We are minutes from rafting. We are minutes from, so we get a massive tourist population going through. And we do see a lot of that kickback on us as well, is depending upon certain times of the year, the beginning of certain seasons, the beginning of certain things.
Right.
Inventory goes wonky.
Right.
Like, good luck, God bless.
Happy shopping. Happy baking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, or good luck having a 4th of July cookout. If you didn't plan for this shit in May, you're not buying hot dogs and hamburger, especially not hot dog or hamburger buns, in July.
Right.
Like, good luck. You're not having a 4th of July cookout unless you pre-stock. Like, you have to get ahead of it, because I'll tell you what will happen. 4th of July weekend hits. We get a dissension of people all coming through for the 4th of July holiday weekend, who all have the same idea. Let's do a 4th of July cookout. Most unoriginal idea anyone has ever had. And they go, yeah, that sounds great, because we're traveling, and that's pretty quick and easy, and like easy cleanup. You don't need a whole bunch of shit for it.
Right.
And it gets nuts because the stores try to keep up.
Right.
And so you'll see cases that usually have a variety of products that will get absolutely stocked to brimming with, like, macaroni salad, potato salad, hot dogs. They're trying. It's gone. It's gone. Like July 2nd, it's gone. July 1st, it's gone.
Right.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to try another store, and then another store, and another store, and another store.
Right.
Or you're just going to that has hot dogs.
Right. Yeah.
And get hot dogs.
And it gets insane when you're trying to plan stuff. All right, so I really don't like any of the assholes tonight. Like, all of them are from teeny boppers. So let's do 2 gay over 40 ones.
All right.
I mean, gay over 30. Sorry.
Okay, so just pick 2.
I got 2 for you.
Awesome.
Like, I did my homework.
Okay, because I didn't have links yet, and I'm sitting here going, like, are we picking them at random? Like, what we doing? All right, so there we go. Now I have them both up. So does so Ask Gay Bros over 30, this one is flared 35 to 39. Does anyone do relationship check-ins? What questions do you ask? My boyfriend, 33, and I, 38, are doing pretty well 6 months in and don't have any obvious issues in our relationship. But we have definitely entered a more stable phase of our relationship, and I want to manage it right. Do you ever check in with your partner? How structured is it? Is it useful?
I think it's very useful. And yeah, we do check-ins. But it's normally like the first base question is, are we okay? Are you okay?
Although sorry, I'm struggling on this one. Like, you're 6 months in and you think you're at the stable. Like,
again, this tells me they've not been in long term for long.
Yeah, like that's still. If you're stable after 6 months, you are the most boring human beings on the planet.
Right.
Especially in your 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of like it. And granted, this is probably still new relationship energy, kind of like everything's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I don't think you entered the stable phase in most relationships till about year 3.
Right.
Because that's, I mean, like, I'm not saying there isn't going to be any stability for that next, for that first 3 years. You're
Right.
going to start to like get the
Right.
momentum.
Right.
But you're still going to have stuff crop up.
Right.
That is not stable. And that's the part you need to be more so working on now, not trying to create maintenance mode, but trying to figure out how you're going to how to best manage between the two of you.
Right.
Those things that are going to crop up, and they're going to typically be pretty major events. So yeah.
Yeah. But, and that's kind of like the easy check-in for us. The harder check-ins is like, all right, I've had enough of this shit.
That's a harder one for any.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's usually some version of, that goes on. That is more your maintenance-y, like long-term problems, which is informed by like that early, like, we're gonna figure out how to argue, we're gonna figure out like what surprises there are, and argument styles and reaction styles and indicators of a problem. Because it's natural in our relationships. Sometimes it's like, I'm struggling with something, but I don't know if I want help. I don't know if I want to even share. I don't know that it's worth sharing. That's usually where you're getting into in the first like 6 months and 3 years. Like, wherever in there you finally hit the moment that, like, okay, honeymoon over. NRE died. Like, every fart isn't like an amazing bouquet of wonderfulness. It's like, no, your fucking shit stinks and you're a goddamn asshole. That's usually somewhere in that 6 months to 3 years where you figure out how to say those words.
You figure out how to say those words, but you kind of touched on something there, and I think we need to kind of talk about it. There's healthy arguments, and then there's unhealthy arguments.
Oh yeah.
Style.
Arguments over issues are generally healthy.
Right.
Arguments that involve tearing people down to feel better about yourself, unhealthy.
Yeah.
Like, that's your pretty clear divider. The biggest problem you see in relationships is that either one or both will typically, it starts out a really rational, organized argument, and then someone's feeling hurt, and the next thing you know, it's like, you're just like your mother. Hint, no one has ever said you're just like your mother, and not had a much different, larger argument.
Right.
Never in all of recorded history.
Yes. Or there's an issue. Let's address the issue. Let's argue about the issue, i.e., a tree in my front yard.
Well, and the huge difference that, like, if you don't know it yet, relationships, to be successful, you have to learn the difference between you're stupid and that's stupid. Sometimes it's from both sides. As in, like, you have to learn to hear you did something stupid without hearing you are stupid.
Right.
And someone may have to learn how to say, you did something stupid. I don't think you're stupid. but you did a stupid thing. And now we need to fix it.
Right.
And those are like oddly weird commonalities of problems that people
Mhm.
have.
Right.
It's little things you say that it's like, well, that's not how I meant it. But you said it, and that's what they heard.
Right.
Or you didn't say it, but that's what they heard. So
Right.
you like, and sometimes it is finding certain words you just do not say that.
Right.
It will only make this worse because you may mean it
Hmm.
in a totally different way.
Right.
That's not how they're ever going to hear it. There is no amount of therapy. There is no amount of talking about it. There is no amount of, like, there is nothing that's going to change what that word does.
Hmm.
So you have to learn that that one stays on the shelf. We don't use it. Like,
Right.
unless I want to blow this up,
Hmm.
that one lives in a shelf in a closet. Just don't ever say that word.
Right.
Because it's only going to make this.
It only makes it worse. It only makes it more challenging. And then there's the other part of that is separating the issue from the person. Because if you're fighting over an issue, you need to address the issue. You don't need to be fighting at the person and low blowing it. And, you know, this is one that I look at and go, but, you're such a fucking bitch. And what else is new? Like, this was on my menu, like, this was on my product description when you got here. And that disarms people a lot of times.
Well, but you're not looking really to disarm people in an argument necessarily.
Right.
Like, that's cheap tactics to win. And you
Hmm.
do have to watch that you're not playing those.
Right.
But yeah, like, because it is ultimately about fighting fair, because you're
Hmm.
gonna fight.
Hmm.
You just have to figure out, like, do you want to fight fairly and work together,
Hmm.
or do you just want to win?
Right.
Because I'll tell you right now, just wanting to win and a healthy relationship are mutually exclusive things. Like,
Exactly.
it will never work. You will
Right.
never have a healthy relationship and
Hmm.
always win your argument.
Right.
Never. It will never happen.
Well, not only that, but I know this is a lot in straight world. We get it a lot in gay world also. Couples should never fight. Bullshit. If you don't fight, you're in trouble. So that means someone isn't trying to actually engage in the relationship.
Or has been put into a disengaged state.
Right.
Like, because that can also be another part of it, is
Hmm.
that you can have moments, especially when you're trying to create kind of this false narrative of everything's so amazing and
Hmm.
we're great. Like, when you try to artificially create that we're just in
Hmm.
total agreement with everything.
Right.
That sometimes what you end up doing in your efforts to quote unquote fight fair is
Hmm.
sometimes you break the ability to have an argument. Because who the
Right.
hell wants to bring up an argument
Right.
or try to, like, root for a cause
Hmm.
if you're going to get lost
Hmm.
1 minute in because you said the wrong word, you said it with the wrong tone, you said it too loudly.
Hmm.
You should have said this instead of that, or your mother.
Right. Yeah.
At what point do you just go, this is fine?
Hmm.
Like, is it worth the energy
Right.
to start an argument knowing what it's gonna turn into, and 3 hours later you're just gonna be like, I don't even care anymore?
Hmm.
Like, so you do have to be, I don't even know, like, you're trying to find that, like, water level where it's like, okay,
Right.
like, this is a workable arguing
Right.
capacity,
Situation.
not just there's no point in arguing, or you never stop arguing.
Right.
Like, that's the other part of, and that's a far more important one, is if all you do is argue,
Hmm.
And not that we don't know couples, we all know couples.
Mm-hmm.
They have never stopped arguing.
Since day
It's
one.
all they do. It's all they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, I don't know how that works for some people.
Right.
I feel like that's a really weird thing to like trauma bond with,
Well,
because
they
I
get
can't
into
see how that's
the
not trauma bonding.
right. Well, they get into the makeup, breakup, makeup, breakup, makeup, fight, argue, makeup cycle, and it becomes their dynamic. And that's when it's like, nah, I ain't got time for that one. Sorry, I just don't.
Well, it's sort of like my theory on cheating is like, I just don't even care.
Right.
Like that's kind of where I ended up long before
Right.
we ever met, was that like it is not worth my energy.
Mm-hmm.
Nor do I understand people that think it's worth their energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you dating someone that you have to check their phone and go behind them and, go through their email and figure out their password and follow them around? And
Who's got time for that?
God, read a book, watch a movie, do something.
Well, work.
Like, stop trying to make the relationship what you want it to be
Right.
in that regard. Like, like, dear sweet Jesus, people in prison have less
Right.
supervision. You know what I mean? Like, that's a full-time
Mm-hmm.
fucking job or two.
Right. Right.
Why invest it? If they're going to cheat, they're going to cheat. You either accept it or you don't. You move on if that's not what you want.
No.
You'll
Right.
eventually, like, they will eventually out themselves. You don't even have to try.
No. They will fuck up. They will say something. They will mention something. They will fucking give evidence on their own selves. Humans are stupid. And men are even stupider. Sorry, they just are.
Fair enough. Like, I wouldn't really go that way with it.
Oh, please. They are lazy and stupid. They will leave shit around. They will leave evidence. They will leave their coat. They will leave their hat. There will be a weird pair of socks in the laundry. They will say they're going to go do X and then not come back with, like, I'm going to the grocery store, and they don't come to the grocery store. They're lazy because they will use the same username for every fucking thing. And you can just literally go, okay, well, that's interesting. And boom, 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 boom. And then, heaven forbid, you're out trying to have dinner with someone and they just mention, oh, blah, blah, blah was on this. And it's like, oh, really? That's interesting. I didn't know that. It happens. Men run their mouths. Men don't cover the tracks.
So, but yeah, like, that's where you're gonna kind of. And hi, Donna. Glad you could join us, and thank you so much, Devin, for recommending us. But yeah, like, that's where you are that first like 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying like it's a class, but I'm saying it's a learned life experience.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, no, you if you're there at 6 months, I don't think you're there at 6 months.
Right. Well, gay relationship 6 months is 3 years. So yeah, they're there.
Okay.
They're there at that. Okay, how do we make this work again? I really love you and I really want you. And it's like, then you work it. You work the relationship. You don't constantly check in. You don't constantly look for reinforcement. That's something else, is this constant, that I think people do a lot in that early 6 months to year and a half, is constant check-in, constant communication, constant texting each other. You drive each other crazy.
Well, yeah, and you do have to watch out for that. Is sometimes it becomes like the I need to talk to you later.
Mm-hmm.
In which, like, there's no one watching this video right now that didn't hear me say that and go, because it's a primed response. I need to talk to you later. That's one of those phrases that, like, don't use that. but you can inadvertently turn in like, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are we okay? Sometimes depending upon like what you're doing in your relationship and how that arguing is going,
Mm-hmm.
you can turn that into like a,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's like everyone locks up.
Right.
So do be careful using that specific phrase, like whatever phrasing you use.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful. You're also recognizing the reaction it's causing,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes you're gonna be having a different argument than you think you're having.
Well, true. And then like watching activity. Like if your partner suddenly starts just not doing anything or just doing one or two things, it's time for a check-in.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah.
Yay, so let's hop over to the other one, because this one is different for everybody.
All right. So ask a bros over 30. This one's flared 30 to 34. What does your self-care look like lately? I've been taking a lot of sunset walks to get ice cream, and I've been connecting more intentionally with friends lately. What about you?
Mm-hmm. For me, it's hiking. It's going to the gym. It's disconnecting from the world that I live in every day. It's getting the hell out of the house for more than like purposeful reasons. What about you?
I've been trying to at least pick up some basics.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's especially after we came out of March. March was
Mm-hmm.
just kind of a whirlwind month.
Right.
It doesn't feel like it's May already.
Mm-hmm.
But it is. But no, March was a lot, and then April had a lot of cleanup with it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of getting to the point where it's like, okay, let me see how many of my basics I can check off.
Right.
Like, I got at least 5 hours sleep. I got a shower and clean clothes, brushed my teeth. Like, I did, I remembered to eat. I wasn't, running around so much that like taking a bathroom break was just like, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, I went to the bathroom. It was, holy hell, if I don't get to this bathroom. Like,
Right.
those are things that for me, I know that sounds so basic, but I spent so much time running around in March
Mm-hmm.
that, like, I didn't have opportunities for stuff.
Right.
That it was just like, keep going, keep going, keep going, a little
Right.
faster, a little faster, a little faster. Let's, run to the next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
couple hours sleep. Next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing. And then I get into that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's sort of how I ran into April, was just like, next, 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 run, run, keep running.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't stop for lunch. Keep the momentum.
Right.
And so finally, like, April started to calm down, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I have to calm down with it.
Right.
Because otherwise I'm just going to get stuck in this rut, and then
Right.
I start having problems
Right.
that, like,
And
I have no energy to do stuff, and
mm-hmm.
like I can't think my way out of a wet paper bag, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm forgetting to do stuff because I don't have the brain power to remember what I'm trying to do long enough
Mm-hmm.
to do it.
Right.
Um,
And that can be challenging too. Those are sounds like it's time to diverse and divest.
mhm.
Um, and take time and go, okay, yeah, like I'm not doing any fucking thing. I'm gonna go watch a movie. Or I'm going to hit the hike. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to enforce. And, a lot of people get stuck in that, well, I can't right now. Yes, you can, because it's actually shown that when you do self care, when you come back, you're able to do more.
Yeah. So that's sort of where my April, like, that was the end note for April, was trying to, like, okay, I don't have anything all that pressing.
Right.
Like, there's stuff I need to get done. It's a manageable task list.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to keep up, catch up, do whatever.
Right.
So, you know, and definitely taking advantage of like the no doctor appointment month.
Right.
You know, okay, cool. I can get so many things done.
Hmm.
Like there's now a massive resource of time and energy
Right.
that's coming.
Hmm.
I just have to rise to it without continuing to so it's pacing myself really. If you really want to like boil it down, my
Right.
self-care looks like pacing myself right now. I'm going,
Right.
okay, like there's no massive like hurtling meteorite at my planet.
Right.
Go do the things.
Hmm.
Like go do the things.
And
Um
allow those things to be just those things.
mhm. Well, and getting inspired to just go do stuff.
Right.
You know, that like look, I've gotten the massive items on my checklist done.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go do something.
Hmm.
Like I gotta run out to the store anyway. I don't have to rush through this.
Hmm.
I can take more time and browse more places. I
Right.
can, you know, go do whatever, take a drive.
Yeah. And that is really like major for you is to take the drive, take the
Oh yeah.
comfortability.
Well, yeah, because and that actually worked out this week.
Hmm.
Like I did. It was like, you know, everyone was quiet, everything was quiet.
Hmm.
Like I got my stuff done. I'm looking at my day like cool. I, I, I have like 2 hours in the middle of my day.
Yeah. Like,
I
what am I going to do with that?
I don't have to stress.
Right.
Cool. So I just kind of like whatever.
Hmm.
So it was nice.
Very cool. I'm glad you enjoyed that. And, you know, and those are so important to do, especially as we're heating up into the summer and activities get doubled and children and non-children or wherever you're at in that world. It takes a lot to make sure that you get things together.
Sure.
Okay. So we will be back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. With the Second Coffee Shop. And of course, I'll do readings and who knows what will be on our board then. I'm working the networks all weekend. Appointments are available. Feel free to book those. So what's up with you this weekend?
Well, we're and the baristas already kind of know this. We've dropped a preview, and they got to do some voting.
Uh-huh.
So you know, you'll see it Monday.
Hmm.
The like general audience, you'll see it Monday.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I've got some touch up and polish to do on the new thing coming Monday.
Right.
We'll be hitting Aeson social media.
Uh-huh.
So I've been working on that and getting that together, which again, talking about self-care a minute ago. This was what happens when Joe does self-care is he can go
Hmm.
play.
Right.
And I did. I played. So yeah, and learned a new software and it was great.
Right.
So that's actually right now I've got a few things to touch base on clients with that have been holding back.
Hmm.
And then that's basically where I'm at right now. I'm kind of McLovin it.
Good. Awesome. All right. Then with that, take it away.
All right, so of course we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Brenda, Joan Owen, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Caitlin Bell, Devin, and Bella. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcsbnetwork.com.
Yes. All right, guys. We'll see you later. Bye, y'all.
Bye.